Okay, so this is the study guide for the structural and health exam. This is the math one, the harder one. So let's dive right in. So to get square footage of anything, you need a length and you need a width. So in the problem, it will always give you both. It'll give you a length and a width. To find square footage, it's just length times width. This is easy. So if we switch these out for numbers, 5 feet by 20 feet, if it was like you are treating a lawn that is 5 feet by 20 feet, how many square feet do you treat? You just do 5 feet times 20 feet is 100 square feet, okay? But the problems that you'll see on the exam are a little bit more complex, so they'll look something like this. They'll say you're spraying a 3-foot wide swath, so that's this green area here, all the way around a 5-foot by 20-foot structure. How many square feet do you spray? Okay, so this, it's going to be the same process where we do a length times a width, but we need to know multiple things now. So we need to know the total area, which I'm going to use this black line to draw. The total area minus the brown area is just the green area. So that's only the area that we're treating, is the green strip all the way around. So the way that we need to do that, we can find the square footage of the inside pretty easily. It's just the length times width. 5 feet times 20 feet is 100 square feet on the inside. Sorry, the brown part, 100 square feet. That's easy. But now we need to find out the length and width of this part, okay? So what is the length on this side? How do we know that? Well, we know that the length of this side on the brown square is 5 feet, and we know that we're going 3 feet further this way and 3 feet further this way. So it should be 5 plus 3 plus 3 again, which is 5 plus 3 is 8, plus 3 again is 11 feet, okay? And then same for this side, we know that it's 20 feet all the way up the brown area, but then we're adding 3 feet on the top, 3 feet on the bottom, so it should be 20 feet, plus 3 is 23, plus 3 more is 26. And now the area of this black dotted line, the total area, is 11 feet times 26 feet. So 5 plus 3 plus 3 times 20 plus 3 plus 3 is 11 feet times 26 feet, okay? And then our total area minus the brown area is what that green section is, the part that just wraps all the way around the building, okay? So just plug it into a calculator. You're allowed to use a calculator. You're allowed to use scratch paper. And all you're going to do is length times width, and then subtract the smaller one from the bigger one. Okay, so we end up with 286 square feet for the total area, minus 100 square feet, so that's this. Total area minus the inside, the building, the brown area, whatever. The bigger one minus the small one. That means that this green area all the way around is 186 square feet. Okay, so now we're going to practice. You are spraying a 5-foot wide swath all the way around a 16-foot by 80-foot structure. How many square feet do you spray? Okay, step 1, they've given us some numbers, so I want you to just draw it. Break out your scratch paper. You're allowed to draw it. Just draw. Okay, here we go. So it's how many? 16 feet by 80 feet is the structure. Okay, and then we're going 6 feet on each side. 6 feet, 6 feet. So my drawing's not very to scale or anything. Let me get that to focus. But we know that it's 6 feet out, 6 feet out, 6 feet out, 6 feet out, okay? So on the PowerPoint, that looks like this. It's the green area that goes all the way around the brown area. And we know that this length is 16 feet, this length is 80 feet, okay? So now we're just gonna do some math. This side, the building, is 16 times 80 square feet, whatever that equals. Okay? So I'm going to grab my calculator, because you're allowed a calculator on this exam. Okay, so here's my calculator. Yours doesn't need to have all these fancy buttons. It can just have plus, minus, times, divide, and you're good to go. Okay? So what we want to find out is what's the size of the brown area? What's the inside? Okay? So we're going to do 16 times 80, 1,280 square feet. Okay? So let's just write that. 1,280 square feet is the inside or the building or the brown area, whatever. Okay? So we know that one, and now we need to find out the larger area so that we can subtract them, because the formula we're using is total area minus inside, or black minus brown, equals that green area or the area to spray. Okay? So it's all the same whether we're using total minus inside equals spray area, or back on the PowerPoint, total area minus brown area equals green area, either way. Okay? So we know that this, so we just did the math. We know that 16 times 80 is 1,280. Okay, so I just wrote that down, 1,280 square feet. Now, if this is 16 feet tall or wide, how long is this side? Okay, all the way up and down. So it's 16 plus 6 on the top plus 6 on the bottom. So it's 16 plus 6 plus 6. I'm a smart guy, but I don't like doing math in my head. I just do 16 plus 6 plus 6. Okay, 28. So this outside rectangle, you don't have to draw it again, you can just write it here. My drawing's a little messy. But this total length is 28 feet, okay? And now we need to find the total length on the bottom side, and what's that gonna be? So we just did 16, it's a different color. We just did 16 feet plus 6 plus 6. Now let's do 80 feet plus 6 plus 6, okay, on both sides. So 80 plus 6 plus 6 is 92, okay? So it's a 28 by 92 foot area, and that's like the lawn that goes all the way around or whatever. So let's go back to the PowerPoint. 26 feet, wait. Sorry, my math is wrong. You gotta read the questions. We're spraying a 5 foot wide swath all the way around, okay? So I'm just gonna scrap this. We're gonna start over, it's good practice, okay? So we've got a 16 by 80 foot structure and a lawn that goes 5 feet all the way around, okay? So this distance here, this is 5 feet. Okay, but the math ends up being the same. Total area, let's use this. Total minus the purple, or minus the inside, equals the green area or the area to spray. On the PowerPoint, we're doing total area minus brown area equals green area. Okay, and then let's find out the lengths. So we've got 16 feet plus 5 plus 5. So on the green area, that should be 16 plus 5 plus 5, 26. Okay, so this is 26 feet. And then on the longer side, it's going to be 80 plus 5 plus 5, 90. 90 feet. okay? And so the inside area is 80 by 16, which we already did. 80 times 16 is equal to 1280 square feet. Okay, 1,280 square feet. The green area is going to be 26 feet times 90 feet. 26 times 90. 2340. Okay, so this is 2,340 square feet. But we're not done. That is not your answer. Okay, so let's head back to the PowerPoint and see what we've done. Okay, we found out 16 times 80 is 1280. I keep going back to the wrong slide. 16 times 80 is 1280. Then we found out that this side, the shorter side, is 26 feet long. The longer side is 90 feet long. 16 plus 5 plus 5, 80 plus 5 plus 5. Okay? So, we already did the math on the calculator. 26 times 90 is 2,340. And now we're doing total area minus the brown area equals the green area. Or we're going to say 2,340 square feet minus 1,280 square feet. So we're doing the big area, which is 2,340 minus the small area, which is 1,280, equals, I'm not doing that in my head, okay? So we're doing 2,340 minus 1,280 equals 1,060. 1,060. So 1,060 square feet is the area to be treated. That is your answer, 1,060. So let's go back to the PowerPoint. Total minus brown equals green. 2,340 minus 1,280 equals 1,060 square feet. Okay, so all these problems are the same, and we're actually going to do another practice. Okay, so I don't have this on the PowerPoint. We're just going to do it on paper, and you should be able to do this on your own. Okay, so let's say this is how the question reads, and you just need to write it. So this is your process. Okay, you are spraying a 3-foot wide swath. So I'm just going to write that down. 3 feet wide swath. Okay. You are spraying a 3-foot wide swath all the way around a 15 by 21 foot structure. Okay, so 15 by 21 foot structure, and that's the home or the shed or whatever. That's the inside area. How many square feet do we spray? So our answer, how many square feet do I spray? How many square feet do I spray? Okay, and this way you can just keep track of, this is what they gave me, this is what they want. Okay, so now let's draw it. So first I'm going to draw that structure. Okay, and it's 15 feet by 21 feet. Okay, and then around that we've got a bigger rectangle, and this, it's bigger by 3 feet on each side. If you like to see it cleaner like this, but I usually need to remind myself, oh, it's 3 feet on every side, not just on one side. 3 feet, and then on this side as well, 3 feet. Okay? So, we've got our numbers for length and width for the inside. So let's just go ahead and calculate that. 15 feet times 21 feet is 315 feet. Okay, 315 square feet. Okay, so this area is 315 square feet. Now let's find our length and our width for the larger area, which is the total area, because the formula we're using is total minus inside equals answer, area to spray, whatever. Okay. So it was 15, now we're adding 3 on the top, 3 on the bottom, so that's 15 plus 3 plus 3, 21, okay? So 21 on the outside. And now 21 plus 3 plus 3 on the left and right. 21 plus 3 plus 3, 27. Okay, 27. So now we have a length, we have a width. We can figure out the square footage of the total area. Okay, 21 times 27, length times width, is area. 567 square feet. Okay, so now let's plug in our total area and our inside area into this formula that we have. So our total 567 minus our inside 315 equals 567 minus 315, 252. So I am going to spray 252 square feet. Okay, so you should be able to do that. You can practice, you can come up with numbers on your own and know the steps. But step 1, write it down. Write down what they give you. Write down what the answer is going to be. 2, draw it. Draw the inside rectangle, draw the outside rectangle. Tell yourself how much room, how wide that swath is that goes all the way around. 3, we're just doing length times width of inside, length times width of outside. Okay, and there's kind of a sub step in here that you have to add the width of the swath that goes all the way around to these numbers to find your length and your width. So maybe find total length and width comes first. Okay, length and width inside, find what your length and width are, and then length times width outside. Step 4, outside minus inside equals your answer. Okay, so now we're going to move on. The other kind of math questions that you're going to see, and for these they do give you some formulas. They give you how many ounces there are in a gallon. They give you how many fluid ounces there are in a quart or a cup or whatever. You shouldn't need it, but it is there. You should only need to know how many ounces there are in a gallon, but don't try and memorize it. They'll give it to you. Okay? So we're going to get a new scratch paper in here. Now I'm going to read the question. According to the label's directions, you need to mix 2.5 ounces of pesticide with 253.5 ounces of water to make a 2-gallon mixture with 3% dilution. That's a lot, okay? It helps me to write it down. So I need 2.5 ounces of pesticide and 253.5 ounces of water to make 2 gallons with a 3% dilution. And now it says how many ounces of pesticide to make a 1 gallon mixture. Okay? So let's look at what we know and what we want to know. Okay? So I see ounces here. I see gallons here. So in the problem, we have a 2-gallon container. It's got 235 ounces of water and 2.5 ounces of it are the pesticide. Okay? For a 1-gallon container, half the size, it's got this much water, this much pesticide. We want to know how much pesticide is it. Okay, well, this one seems easy. 2 gallons to 1 gallon, it's just half. 2.5 ounces, it's just going to be half. Okay? So let's just go 2.5 ounces divided by 2. Okay, cut it in half. 1.25. 1.25 ounces of pesticide. And that's your answer. There's no crazy math. This one's just kind of common sense. If you If you cut the size in half of the whole tank, you're going to cut the size of the pesticide in half. Let's see that on the PowerPoint, okay? Just use common sense. If you use half the water, use half the pesticide. So it's going to be, you don't need to know half the water. It might ask you. In this case, it only asks for how much pesticide do we need. But in that case, it's half of 2.5 is 1.25 ounces, okay? The next one, this one requires some percentages, okay? So let's just remember that percent means per 100. So a century is 100 years. A cent is 1/100th, of a dollar. Whatever percent just means divide by 100. So 63% is 63 over 100. Or 5% is 5 divided by 100, okay? So when you're doing your math, instead of a percent or a fraction, you're gonna want a decimal, okay? And the way that you find that is you just do 63 divided by 100 equals 0.63, okay? And you can realize that for 63, and you're making it a percent, 63 is really 63.000 forever. You're just moving the decimal twice. So it's 0.63 is your answer. It confuses me on 5 because I just want to say, 5%, 0.5, but that's not true. 5 divided by 100 is 0.05. Okay, 0.5 would be 50%. 50% equals 50 over 100 equals 0.5. So just be careful. If you want to double check, always just divide by 100 on your calculator. You'll get the right answer, okay? So in this case, back to the PowerPoint, pesticide A has a 63% dilution of the active ingredient. So what that's saying is that in pesticide A, there's a lot of ingredients. The active ingredient is the one that we care about, and that's only 63% of whatever it is. So if this is a gallon container or a quart or a 3/4 gallon, we don't know. All we know is that 63% of it is the active ingredient. Now it says, how many ounces of pesticide do you need to make a 1 gallon mixture with an 8% dilution of the active ingredient? So we know that we're going to end up with a gallon. We don't know how much water, we don't know how much pesticide, but we know that the active ingredient is going to be 8%. Okay, so I'm just going to write this as a simple sentence. I'm going to say 8% of 1 gallon is the active ingredient, okay? Active ingredient, okay? And what this is asking is a 63% dilution means that 63% of pesticide A is the active ingredient. We want to make a 1 gallon mixture with 8% of it being the active ingredient, okay? So this might be confusing. If it's confusing, don't think about it. I'm just showing you 63% of it is the active ingredient. There's other stuff. We don't really care. We just want to know how much active ingredient, okay? So I just shrunk this down to make some room. Percent means divide by 100. And what this is, so I don't know how much pesticide we're going to add, but I know that 63% of the pesticide that we add needs to be 8% of the gallon, okay? So I know that 63% of whatever pesticide that we add, so this is going to be, the options will say that it will be in ounces, so 63% of however many ounces we add needs to be 8% of the gallon. Because we don't care about all the other ingredients, we just care about the active ingredient. So 63% of the active ingredient that we add needs to be 8% of the gallon. And we can rewrite this into math. Okay, so when you see of, like when you say 4 by 4, whatever. By means times, of also means times. So 63% of whatever we add equals 8% of the gallon, okay? And now let's remember, percent just means divide by 100, so 63 divided by 100, whoops, that's times. 63 divided by 100, 0.63 times however many ounces we're gonna add, so this is our answer, we don't know it yet, equals 8%, so 8 divided by 100, 0.08, there's another of, times the gallon, okay? So we want to find out how many ounces of pesticide we need to add, so that's our answer. So what we can do is, because these are being multiplied, we want to get this by itself. We want to figure out everything that equals what we need to add. So we can divide by 0.63 on both sides of this equation to keep them equal. And what that will do is this cancels out, and now we get however many ounces we need equals 0.08 divided by 0.63 times gallon. Okay, so let's just calculate that. 0.08 divided by 0.63 equals, I'm gonna move this up here. So we've got, I'm just copying this down, how many ounces we need equals 0.08 divided by 0.63 times by gallons. And what that equals is 0.1269. We're just going to round to 0.127, okay? So how many ounces equals 0.127 times the gallon, okay? So because this is a decimal, it looks like a percentage. So I'm going to times it by 100. 0.127 times 100. So we're going, instead of dividing by 100 to get to a decimal, we're timesing by 100 to get to a percent. We're going backwards. So it's 12.7% times means of the gallon needs to be the pesticide. And that's the same as saying needs to be the pesticide is equals pesticide times 12.7% times gallon. So our answer is going to be in ounces, and if you look on the test, it tells you how many ounces are in a gallon. So when you're calculating, don't ever change this to a percent, just leave it at 0.127 times however many ounces there are in a gallon, which they give it to you to be 128 ounces, equals, so let's do 0.127 times by 128 is 16.256 ounces. That's the answer. So let's go back to the PowerPoint, let's take a look. So there's 128 ounces in the whole thing. 12.7% or 0.127 of the whole mixture is going to be pesticide. So what we did was we already knew that 8% of the whole thing would be active ingredient. So we're just saying only 63% of the 8% is going to be actually the active ingredient. And when you do it, 128 times 0.127, we get 16.23 ounces. Now let's just check our work. We know that 63% of pesticide A is active ingredient. So let's do 63% of 16.23 ounces is 10.2 ounces. And now let's do 10.2 ounces divided by 128 ounces, tells us the percentage, and it's 0.079, okay? 0.079, and let's times 0.079 by 100. 7.9, and all this other stuff after it would make it go to 8%. Okay, so we did it, that's the right answer. So let's simplify this, okay? So it says pesticide A, we're gonna do this on our own, so I want you to follow along. Pesticide A has a 64% dilution of the active ingredient, okay? And we want to know how many ounces of pesticide A do we need to add to make 1 gallon with 5% of that gallon being the active ingredient. And it'll say 5% dilution of the active ingredient. That's what that means. Okay? So all we need to do is rewrite this. We want it to be 5%, so we're going to say 64% of what ounces equals 5% of gallon. Okay? And now let's divide all these by 100. 64 divided by 100, 0.64. Of means times, we don't know this, equals 5 divided by 100, 0.05 times, we know what a gallon is. A gallon is 128 ounces. Okay? And now we can't times this with a question mark, but we can times these together, okay? And the order doesn't matter. You can times this first and then divide by this, or divide by this first and then times it, whatever. But 0.05 times 128 ounces is 6.4, okay? 6.4 is however many ounces we're adding is, okay, 64% of however many ounces we're adding is 6.4, okay? So now we need to divide this side by 64%, divide this side by 64%, okay? So 6.4 divided by 0.64 equals 10. So we need to add 10 ounces of pesticide A. So how many ounces? 10 ounces of pesticide A. And that's your answer. Okay, let's try it one more time. You have pesticide A has a 14% dilution of active ingredient. How many ounces of pesticide do you need to add to make a 1 gallon mixture with a 9% dilution of active ingredient? Okay? What are you doing first? You're just gonna write a sentence, okay? You're gonna write how many percent, 14% of however much we're gonna add has to be 9% of 1 gallon. Okay, now we're gonna turn this into math. So we're gonna divide by 100. 14 divided by 100, 0.14. 0.14 of means times how many ounces equals, there's a percent, 9 divided by 100, 0.09. Of means times. 1 gallon is 128 ounces. So we want these to match. And they'll give you that table. Okay, now we just do the math. 0.09 times 128 is 11.52 on this side. And we can't multiply these yet, so it's 0.14 times however many ounces. Now we can divide by 0.14, divide by 0.14, because it's an equation, so we have to do the same thing on both sides. So these cancel out, and now we're left with however many ounces we need equals 11.52 divided by 0.14, which is what we had here, okay? 11.52 divided by 0.14 is, so how many ounces is 82.2857 blah 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 ounces. Okay, so we know that the answer is we need to add 82 point something, and it's multiple choice, so you just pick the closest one. 82 ounces of pesticide A to make this true. Okay, and that's it. Good luck.